This poor man can have its no loss to me. In fact, this is the kind of person she should get married to, so she accepted. Once upon a time, in a distant village called Mui, there lived a kind-hearted man named Chidi. Chidi had 2 wives. His first wife was Adabi, and the second wife was Abi. Adbi was a very gentle and kind woman. She was loved by everyone. She had a beautiful daughter named Osi. 8 years had passed since she had kids, but they were no longer coming. She could no longer have children, which saddened her deeply. Because of this, Chidi's family made trouble with Adbi, urging Chidi to marry his second wife, which he bluntly refused. One day, Mama Chidi came to visit them in their house in Aqua town, where Chidi and his wife lived. Adbi was very happy to see her mother-in-law, since she had not seen her for a while. "Ah, Mama, you're welcome. Oh, how was your trip?" she happily asked her, as she tried to take her luggage from her. "I will be fine when you give my son children. I want grandchildren, not a grandchild. What if anything happens to her? I'll be left with none. Please don't ask me if I'm fine. You know I'm not fine, and I won't be until you give me more grandchildren." After dropping her mother-in-law's luggage, she went straight to her room and cried all through her stay in the house. Mama refused to talk to Adbi or eat anything she prepared. Chidi's mother urged him to marry a second wife, hoping for more grandchildren. "Mama, I love my wife so much, and God has blessed us with a beautiful, intelligent, and hard-working daughter, and she's enough now." "Enough? Enough for where? She's not enough. We want more grandchildren. We want a full house. We know she's everything you've mentioned, and we love her, but we want more to be on the safer side." When the pressure became too much, Adbi pleaded with her husband to get his second wife. Chidi refused, but when she kept begging, he had to listen to her. So Chidi married a Belly, who seemed nice at first, but soon showed her true colors. A was not kind like Adbi. She had 2 daughters, Amaka and Woma, and 2 sons, Ob and Uch. For Chidi, unlike Ease, children were not kind and often behaved badly, just like their mother, who always caused a lot of trouble in the house. Sometimes Chidi would travel with his lovely wife, Adbi, to a neighboring town to have a quiet time with his wife, just so they could rest from A's troubles. One day, while returning from a friend's wedding at his hometown, their car was involved in a ghastly accident. Both Chidi and Adbi died. This saddened Osi's heart as she was lonely and alone. Tears became unbearable. One day, while she was crying, A walked to her and said, "See, you better stand up from here and do something useful with your life. Do you think your tears will bring them back? You better go and wash the dishes and prepare food for me and my children to eat." With Adbi and Chidi gone, you became very cruel to Osi. She made Osi do all the house chores and would not let her rest. Often she would not give her food till evening. So she continued to suffer in the hands of her stepmother. She became a maid in her own father's house. Each time Mama came visiting, she pretended as though she had been very nice to Osi, and she never allowed her to visit Omachi, their grandmother. As Osi grew up, many young men came to ask for her hand in marriage because she was not only beautiful, but also had a good heart. But A's 2 daughters chased them away, saying all manner of awful things about her to scare them away, always saying her daughters were better suited for marriage. One day, while Osi went on an errand for her stepmother, she mistakenly kicked a stone and fell down. A poor-looking some young man helped her up. His name was Emma. Emma was dressed in old clothes and looked very poor. They both exchanged pleasantries, and he saw her off to where she was going. He walked out to her house and left. "I think I like her," he said to himself, smiling. "I will just make her my friend and watch her carefully, and I'll make some findings to know who she really is." Emma was just a common bread seller that sells bread by the roadside. After making his findings, he concluded that he was going to marry her. Since her stepmother doesn't accept good-looking and wealthy men to marry her, then she will accept a poor bread seller like me. Perfect, he said. So he became a friend. Sometimes he would go visit her and vice versa. And never complained about Emma because she felt he was the kind of person she needed, a very poor man, so she was happy each time she saw the both of them together. One day, a man who had been talking to Osi about marriage came to ask for her hand in marriage. She was happy. He was a good man, and she was going to accept his proposal. But when A realized that if she didn't do something, the marriage might work out, she came up with an evil plan with her children. She asked Osi to prepare food for her in-laws. When the food was ready, A added a lot of salt and pepper to the food. When it was time to serve the food, she served the food immediately. Our visitors had a taste of it and they screamed and asked who prepared the food. They all pointed at Osi. They all shouted at her, "Is this how you will kill our son with your bad food?" And they left angrily. Osi cried, "When will I ever get married?" "All my mates are getting married. A's 2 daughters are married to men who came for my hand in marriage. When will I ever be free from this bondage?" She kept lamenting and crying. When Emma heard about Osi's marriage, he was heartbroken because he liked her and was waiting for the right time to ask for her hand in marriage. Well, I'm happy for her. Perhaps she was never mine. She's my friend anyway. I wish her a happy married life. So he continued his business, only for him to hear people whispering. When he got to the scene and asked what the matter was, he was surprised. He knew it was A's and her work. He quickly packed his bread and ran to Osi's house. She was crying profusely. "It's okay, stop crying. I know it's not your fault. I've tasted your food, and I know you're a good cook. This is A's underwork, and I know it." So he took her to his house, and she was there till evening. He walked her back home. When he returned to his house, he said to himself, "Perhaps she's the one. What a better time to ask for a hand in marriage, if not now. But I wouldn't want to rush her with all this drama that has just happened. I will give her a very little time, then pop the question." He was so excited, hoping she wouldn't turn him down. After a month, Emma asked Osi if he could marry her. Osi laughed and thought to herself, "Why not? This poor man can have it. It's no loss to me. In fact, this is the kind of person she should get married to." She accepted, knowing Emma was poor, but still saw kindness in his eyes and agreed to marry him. "He's the only friend I have, and he's a very nice person. Though he might not have enough, we can work together and make this life a better and more conducive place for us and our children," she thought. So she agreed to marry him. As the wedding day approached, A and her daughters pretended to help, but mocking and laughing at them because they could barely afford anything. They had just a few drinks and food, but they didn't mind. After the wedding, Emma took Osi to his home, which was far from the village. Osi was surprised. They didn't stop at a small house as she expected, but at a very big and beautiful house surrounded by gardens and fields, with lots of maids at her feet and sides. Emma then revealed he was not poor at all, but a very wealthy man who had disguised himself to find a true and loving wife. Osi was amazed and happy, not because of the wealth, but because she found someone who truly loved and respected her. Meanwhile, A's sons were wayward, always bringing trouble to her. She married off Amaka and Woma to 2 of the rich men who once came to seek her hand in marriage, but their bad characters were soon discovered. Emma and Osi lived happily, and they always treated everyone with kindness, just as she had done all her life, no matter how her stepmother had treated her. As time went by, Emma and Osi became known not just for their wealth, but also for their generosity and kindness. They often helped the villagers with their problems and provided for those in need. Ozi never forgot how she was treated by her stepmother, so she made sure to treat everyone with respect and compassion. One day, a big festival was announced in the village. It's an annual festival held once every year. Emma's family There's nothing that happens in the kingdom without the knowledge of the heads of Amaka's family. The ceremony is usually held in the village square. It lasts for 7 days in 3 different locations. Part of it is at the king's palace, Emma's house, and the larger part at the village square. It's a very colourful event where lots of gifts are given out. People from far and wide usually attend this grand occasion, including Ozi's village. It covers a lot of dancing, singing, and magical performances, and lots more. Villagers from near and far were invited, and her family was also invited. Preparations began for the grand event. Amaka and Uoma were sent back by their husbands because of their arrogant, lazy, and dirty lifestyle. They were caught cheating as they went out with men who were wealthier than their husbands. Weena and I were involved in a robbery attack and were caught, and since then they've been in police custody. Amaka saw this as an opportunity to see rich men for themselves on repentance. Their mother encouraged them to look their best and should catch the attention of the most important men in the occasion. They were all still as evil as ever. Their mother never blamed them for cheating, but encouraged them to go after more wealth so she could continue to live a lavish lifestyle. Amaka and Uma worked on their best dresses and practiced their manners, laughing and making mockery of Osi. Amaka said, "Hey, sorry, people like you can never be privileged to attend such grand events. Even if you were still here, you wouldn't have. I hope you are still alive, because we don't even know where your poor and wretched husband came from, and we didn't bother to ask because we don't care. As long as we don't get to see you, we're okay." They all laughed and continued with their preparations. The day of the festival arrived, and the house was filled with laughter, music, and the delicious aroma of traditional dishes. Emma and her daughters went to Emma's mansion, where a section of the occasion was held. They preferred Amaka's house because the best gifts usually come from that section. Osi, glowing in a beautiful dress, welcomed each guest with a warm smile, making everyone feel at home. As A and her children approached the mansion, they felt nervous, but hopeful. They were greeted at the door by Osi, who was surprised to see them. Her heart was torn. She remembered the harshness with which her stepmother treated her, but she managed to control her anger with a warm smile as she welcomed them in. She left her chief maid in charge and hurriedly left to her room, sad, reminiscing everything A and her children had done to her in her own father's house, the pain she had to bear. Emma noticed the absence of his wife and started looking for her. When he couldn't find her, he asked her chief maid, who told him she had gone to her room. He quickly rushed there and found her crying. "What is the matter?" he asked her, but she kept crying. When he continued pressing on her to talk to him, she told him what she had seen. "I understand how you feel, but you should be grateful that in the end it didn't go as they intended. But the will of God prevailed. Be grateful to God that you're the one winning. At last, I know it hurts, but think about the good side. All the harsh and ill treatment made you the strong woman you are today, and if not for our behavior, I wouldn't have met you. So, it's all for the good. Smile for me, my love. Everything will be all right." So, she smiled gently, and he hugged her and brought her back to the festival. Osi decided to let the past be and welcomed them with the same kindness she showed to other guests. The festival continued with great joy, and everyone enjoyed the music and dance. A and her daughters bowed their heads in shame. Emma went to meet them and greeted them with a warm smile. He gave them lots of gifts and told them they could spend the night in the mansion, since it was a very long journey back to their place, and it was already getting late. And this was just the first day of the occasion. They were taken to a room that was bigger than their entire house. Osi, unrepentant, and her daughters plotted how they would kill Osi, then use some diabolic means to get Ama to marry A. She felt the wealth was just too much for Osi alone. Ama refused to see them all. She just wanted the dawn of the day so they could leave already. Little did she know that they were planning on staying longer to execute their evil plans. As the evening wore on, Emma noticed the efforts of Amaka and Uoma and whispered to Osi, "Perhaps they are trying to change for the better." Osi nodded. Change? These two will never change. Unless their mother changes, they won't change. The festival ended late into the night. Guests left with happy hearts and full bellies, praising Osi and Ama for their hospitality. Amaka and Uoma helped to clean up, but Osi felt in her heart that these two were up to something. They cannot change, she said to herself. Moral lessons. When you try to destroy what belongs to another, you're only destroying your own. In Luke 16:12, the Bible says, "If you have not been faithful with what belongs to someone else, who will give you what belongs to you?" By maltreating someone else's child, you're preparing and making that child for evil or our future, but yours will definitely be wayward because you didn't give them the same kind of treatment and preparation. When man proposes, God decides. Destiny can be delayed but not denied. Just like Joseph was sold into his destiny. If he wasn't sold, he wouldn't have been able to reach his palace. If A didn't stop rich men from coming, Osi may not have met Ema. Life is a process, and it's in phases. No matter how difficult a phase may be, leave it with joy. All things are working together for your good. God bless you. See you in my next video. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment what your lessons are and where you're watching from. Bye. I'll see you in my next video.